The Phoenix. The rebirth that the new year demands in-depth psychological analysis of the archetype of transformation. A magnificent bird, golden and crimson plumage, it lives for 500 years. And then, he builds his own funeral pyre. He gathers aromatic branches, myrrh, cinnamon, rare spices. Sit on the pyre, spread your wings, and sing your final song, so beautiful that even the gods stop to listen. And when the song ends, fire. The phoenix is consumed. Ashes, smoke, silence. 3 days. And from the ashes, movement. A tiny worm that transforms, grows, and emerges. The phoenix, reborn, young again. This is humanity's oldest legend about transformation, told by Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Chinese, and Arabs. It has crossed cultures and millennia. Why? Because it is a profound psychological truth. In the next few minutes, you will find out why the phoenix is the most powerful archetype of transformation. How would Freud, Jung, and Adler explain the Renaissance? Why 92% of New Year's resolutions fail? Spoiler, they try to be reborn without dying. What truly dies when you transform? How to use New Year 2026 as a conscious death and rebirth ritual. And why can't you carry everything from last year to next year? Something has to burn. It's December 31st, 2025. New Year's Eve in a few hours. You have a choice. Enter 2026 as the person you were in 2025. Same patterns, same fears, same limitations. Or build the pyre, let something die, and be reborn. If you're ready to understand what the phoenix always knew, that death is not the end but a necessary passage to new life, leave a like now, because this is not a motivational video. It is the archaeology of transformation. Let's begin. The legend of the phoenix, mythology, and archetype. The phoenix has obscure origins. It appears in ancient Egypt, 3000 BC, called Bennu. Sacred bird of the sun god Ra, symbolizes the solar cycle. Death at nightfall, rebirth at dawn. Ancient Greece, 800 BC. Herodotus describes an Arabian bird that lives 500 years, dies in flames, and is reborn from the ashes. Rome, Ovid in Metamorphoses details. The phoenix does not feed on grains or flowers, but on incense and resins. At 500 years old, it builds a nest in a palm tree, deposits spices, sings its last song, and consumes itself. China, Fenghuang, an immortal bird that appears only in times of peace and prosperity. It symbolizes yin-yang balance, cosmic harmony. Medieval Christianity, the phoenix as a symbol of Christ, death on the cross, fire, 3 days in the tomb, ashes, resurrection, rebirth. Alchemy, the phoenix represents opus alchemicum, the transformation of raw matter into gold. Death of the ego, spiritual rebirth, the essential elements of this legend. 1. Long life, 500 years. It's not immortality, it's longevity. The phoenix lives each cycle to the fullest before dying. Psychological meaning. You cannot be reborn prematurely. Each phase of life has a necessary duration. 2. Voluntary death. Phoenix is not dead. It chooses the day and hour when it will die and transform again. Build your own bonfire. Choose the time. Choose a place. Psychological meaning. True transformation will always require a conscious choice. You must decide what will die in the life that is passing. 3. Purifying fire. It is not a peaceful death. It is a fiery death. Burn it all. Flesh, bones, memories, identity. Psychological meaning. True transformation hurts. It always will hurt. Every change of phase signifies the death of the previous phase, from birth to old age. It's not a smooth upgrade. It's a total destruction. 4. Ashes, nothing recognizable remains. The ancient phoenix is completely destroyed. Psychological meaning. Phase of emptiness, of non-being, of mourning for the old self. 5. Rebirth. 3 days. But it's not instantaneous, it's a process. From the ashes emerges the worm, it grows, it transforms. A new bird is reborn. Psychological meaning: the new self doesn't appear fully formed. It needs to be gestated, nurtured, shaped, and developed. 6. Continuity and difference: she is still the phoenix, but not the same phoenix. It has the same essence, but in a renewed form. Psychological meaning: every transformation preserves its core, Jungian self, but changes its structure, ego, persona, identifications. Why has this myth persisted for 5,000 years? Because it describes a psychological truth that we all know viscerally. You can't truly transform yourself without letting something die. You can't become an adult without letting go of the child you once were. You can't become a fulfilled single person without killing the identity of being half of a couple. You can't become an artist without killing off your practical person identity. You can't heal from trauma without killing the narrative of being a permanent victim. And each of those deaths, it hurts so much. I know this because I've been through several of them. Because you're not just changing behavior, you're killing a version of yourself. And the brain treats this literally as death, activating the same neural circuits linked to a period of mourning. Jung would say that the phoenix is the archetype of the self, the organizing center of the psyche that survives all the transformations of the ego. Ego changes: child, adolescent, adult, elderly. But the self remains. It is what witnesses all these transformations. It is the eternal observer. I have gone through several of these phases today at 56 years old. Freud would say, Phoenix represents the compulsion to repeat, Wiederholungsdrang, transformed into conscious growth. We often unconsciously repeat patterns: trauma, bad relationships, self-sabotage. But the Phoenix transforms all this repetition into renewal. It repeats the cycle, but consciously, each time at a higher level. Adler would say, the Phoenix embodies the creative struggle for superiority. Not superiority over others, but over previous versions of oneself. Each rebirth is an overcoming of previous limitations. It is teleology, orientation towards a future goal, rather than causality, determination by the past. This helps me and you too, to understand why 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. Because people try to add something new without subtracting anything from the old. They try to be reborn without dying. And the legend of the Phoenix teaches us that it doesn't work that way. Don't leave now. Comment on what you need to leave behind to renew yourself in 2026. New Year is a ritual of rebirth. The psychology of the fresh start. December 31st. Midnight. Countdown. 10, 9, 8. Fireworks, champagne, hugs, and the universal feeling. New year, new life. Why? What's so magical about turning a page on a calendar? About the Earth orbiting the sun again? It sounds silly, but it's not. The fresh start effect. Dye, Milkman and Reese, 2014. Researchers studied the behavior of millions of people and discovered that temporal markers, New Year's, birthdays, beginning of the month, week, increase dramatically and lead to goal-oriented behaviors. Why? 1. Mental separation from the past. A new year creates psychological discontinuity. That was 2025, now this is 2026. It allows us to distance ourselves from the failures, mistakes, and embarrassments of the previous year. That wasn't the real me. That was me in 2025. Now, I'm me in 2026, and I'm going to be different. Freud would call this a defense mechanism, a temporal projection. Instead of integrating flaws, it projects them onto the past self and dissociates it. Jung diria, it is an unconscious attempt at death and rebirth of the ego. The problem? It's too symbolic. There's no real fire there, so there are no real ashes. Adler would see, fresh start activates optimistic guiding fiction. I can become better. I can overcome my limitations. I can achieve the ideal. That's healthy. but it needs to be accompanied by concrete action, not just hope. 2. Temporal segmentation. Human beings see life in chapters, not a continuous timeline, but a series of episodes. Childhood, adolescence, college, first job, marriage, etc. The new year marks the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. And in a new chapter, you can be different. Try things that the character from the previous chapter wouldn't try. Neurologically, this activates the prefrontal cortex, planning future goals, and reduces amygdala activity, fear, anxiety based on past failures. Psychologically, it allows you to reimagine a new identity. But here's the problem. Most people only reimagine themselves. They don't deconstruct in order to reconstruct. 3. Optimism and dopamine. Imagining a better self in the future releases dopamine. Dopamine is not the pleasure molecule. It's the molecule of motivation, of I can achieve this. On December 31st, you imagine fit body career, taking off healthy relationships, perfect habits, and your brain floods with dopamine. You feel like you're already there. And then, January 2nd, reality hits hard, the gyms are packed even until Carnival, and the boss is still the same incredibly annoying jerk. The relationship is still complicated, and changing habits remains challenging. Dopamine drops, and you give up. Why? Because he confused the fantasy of rebirth with the actual process of rebirth. Fantasy, painless, instant, magical. The real process, painful, gradual, laborious. The phoenix doesn't symbolize a fantasy about rebirth. It works towards it, builds the pyre, enters the fire, dies, and only then is it reborn. Why do 92% of resolutions fail? Research from the University of Scranton, 2024. 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. 80% are abandoned by February. Only 8% achieve their stated goals. The 3 fatal mistakes. Error 1. Adding without subtracting. Typical resolution. I'm going to work out 5 times a week. I'm going to read 50 books. I will meditate daily. What they don't calculate or plan for is what they don't think about burning. What will I stop doing to have time energy? Which identity do I need to kill? What comfort do I need to sacrifice? That doesn't even cross most people's minds. The phoenix doesn't add new wings to the old ones, it burns the old ones completely. Error 2. Changing behavior without changing identity. They try, acting like a fit person, but still identifying as sedentary, acting like an organized person, but identity is still chaotic, acting like a confident person, but identity is still insecure. Result: it is a behavioral cognitive dissonance. New behavior doesn't align with a self-image of constant discomfort. Eventually, intrinsic identity will prevail. For Phoenix to function, its old identity must die first, not its behavior. Error 3. Avoiding pain. They are searching for hacks for painless change, tricks for effortless motivation, systems for results without sacrifice. But real transformation hurts a lot. It's a high price to pay, and it will always hurt and be costly. It hurts to let an old identity die. It hurts to live in the emptiness of ashes. It hurts to build a new identity. People who avoid pain will always avoid transformation. They keep maintaining the same old bird, painting its feathers, pretending to be young, but they are never reborn. New Year's tripartite analysis. Freud. Collective ritual of repression and projection. New Year allows suppression of failures in 2025. I'll forget about that. Projection of idealized potential in 2026. I'm going to be better. Compulsion to repeat disguised as change. Same resolutions every year. Without the real work of mourning the old self. Without integrating its shadow. Change will not occur. It will only be a neurotic repetition. Jung would say it is an unconscious attempt at individuation. The new year activates the archetype of rebirth, Phoenix, resurrected Christ, Osiris, People feel an unconscious call to individuation, to become who they truly are, but most remain at the symbolic level, fires, resolutions, celebrations, without concrete action to kill the old ego and integrate the shadow. True individuation requires confronting your shadow. What did I deny in 2025? Integrating opposites. Where was I one-sided? Connecting with yourself. What is my transcendent purpose? Adler. Annual Guiding Fiction New Year is an opportunity to revisit your guiding fiction. Did the 2025 fiction film work? Did he take it where he wanted it to go? Or did it prove inadequate? If inadequate, New Year is a chance to create new fiction that is more adaptive, more oriented towards social interest, more aligned with real values. But fiction without a concrete, compensatory struggle is just fantasy. Think about it. Meanwhile, subscribe and turn on notifications because in the next part we will discuss what must truly die within you for 2026 to be different, and how to build your psychological pyramid. Don't miss it. Now you are going to do an exercise. It will be the most important of the year. You will identify exactly what must die within you so that rebirth can be possible. It won't be comfortable, but it's as necessary as the fire of the phoenix. Be prepared. Building your pyre. What must die within you? Phoenixes don't die accidentally. They aren't run over. They don't catch any diseases. She builds her own funeral pyre, consciously, deliberately, and with specific materials. If you want a true rebirth in 2026, you need to do the same. But what exactly must die? The 7 deaths necessary for rebirth. 1. Death of the obsolete identity. You have a self-concept, a story that tells about who you are. I'm someone who always procrastinates. I'm terrible with money. I'm not creative. Relationships never work out for me. These narratives are self-fulfilling prophecies. You act in a way that is consistent with them, with how you think, as described in Proverbs 23:7. Why, as he thinks in his heart, so is he. To be reborn. All these identities must burn, disintegrate, turn to ashes. And here's an exercise for you so you can detect whatever is burning. Complete the sentence if possible. I have always been a person who. Then ask yourself, is this still useful to me? Or is it just old husk that I need to burn off? Freud would say that. These identities are ego structures built to protect against anxiety. But eventually, along with this protection, they become prisons. Jung. These are personas, social masks that have merged with the ego, but their individuation requires distinguishing who I really am, self, from who I pretend to be, persona. Adler. These are guiding fictions that served a purpose, usually compensating for inferiority, but now limit rather than liberate. 2. Death of toxic relationships. Not all relationships, but those that, they consistently drain your energy. They reinforce their worst version. They hinder your growth in all areas: physical, mental, intellectual, professional, and spiritual. They are based on codependency, not on real love. The phoenix takes no passengers nor companions. It burns itself out and is reborn alone. First, sort out your own issues before committing to someone. You can rebuild the relationship after being reborn, with a new dynamic, with new boundaries. But during the death rebirth process, what you'll really need is solitude. Exercise. List 3 relationships that drain your life more than they could add to it. Ask yourself, am I ready to let this burn? Or will I carry on to 2026 again? Freud states that toxic relationships often repeat unresolved childhood dynamics. Transference. Without breaking the relationship, there will never be healing. Jung. Some relationships are projections of the shadow or animus, useful for self-knowledge, but eventually they should be removed from sight in order to see the person and oneself clearly. Adler. Relationships based on neurotic compensation for inferiority, e.g. being with someone to prove one's worth, must end so that relationships based on genuine social interest can begin. 3. Death of addictions and compulsions. Not just drugs, alcohol, but compulsive procrastination, compulsive consumption, compulsive pornography, compulsive work, compulsive social media, compulsive relationships. Anything you do compulsively, without conscious choice automatically to avoid feeling something is an addiction. The phoenix burns everything, including anesthetics. Exercise. Complete. When I feel anxious, sad, bored, lonely, I automatically do such and such things unconsciously. That's your addiction, your psychological anesthetic. Ask yourself more pointedly, am I willing to feel the pain that this behavior was hiding? Freud says that addictions are acting out, a discharge of psychic tension through action rather than conscious processing. Because the compulsion to repeat seeks a resolution that will be impossible. Jung says, compulsions are possessions, autonomous complexes that dominate the ego. Liberation requires confronting what is being avoided. Adler. Compulsive behaviors often serve to avoid feelings of inferiority. If I'm always busy, numb, distracted, I don't have to confront inadequacy. Or, death of limiting beliefs. Beliefs about what is possible for you, what you deserve, how the world works, what God, universe, destiny allow. People like me can't do X. The world is a cruel place. I don't deserve happiness. It's too late to start. These beliefs are the bars of your mental prison. Remember the proverb, as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Exercise. Complete. I will never go X because X. That's your limiting belief. Ask yourself, is this objective truth, or a story I believed because it protected me from trying and failing? Freud would say that limiting beliefs are internalizations of the primitive superego, the critical parental cultural voice that was accepted without question. Jung. These are aspects of your shadow. I could, but I don't dare, so I deny such a possibility. And this transforms into, it's not possible for someone like me. Adler. Limiting beliefs are neurotic safeguards. They protect the fiction of inferiority. If I believe I can't, I don't even need to try. If I don't try, then I don't fail, and if I don't fail, I don't need to confront my feelings of inferiority. 5. Death of regrets and grudges. New Year's is a time when many people take mental stock. I should have done X. So-and-so did Y to me and I never forgave him. If only I had a Z, everything would be different. The phoenix carries no regrets. It burns everything, including its memories. Forgiveness or the act of forgiving does not mean that everything is okay now, but it means, I'm not going to carry this with me anymore. Exercise. List 3 main regrets for 2025. For each one, what did this experience teach me? How can I honor the lesson and release the pain? Freud would state that regret is a melancholy, an unresolved grief. The lost object, opportunity, relationship, version of oneself ends up being internalized, and the hatred, love for it is directed towards the self. Jung would say that resentment is a projected shadow. So-and-so is terrible often means so-and-so did something that I am also capable of, but I deny it in myself. Adler. Regret can be a neurotic arrangement. If I keep lamenting the past, I don't need to act in the present. Therefore, my current inferiority is the fault of a past event, not my responsibility. 6. The death of perfectionism. Perfectionism is not about wanting to do well. It's a pathological fear of inadequacy disguised as high standards. If I can't do it perfectly, I don't do it. If anyone sees my flaws, they will reject me. Only perfection is acceptable. The phoenix is not reborn perfect. It is reborn new, young, yes, but still imperfect, mortal, destined to die again in 500 years. Exercise. List a project that you postponed because it wasn't ready yet or wasn't good enough. Ask yourself, Am I striving for excellence or avoiding vulnerability? Freud stated, perfectionism is the sadistic superego. Its impossible standards guarantee perpetual failure, justifying our self-punishment. Jung, perfectionism is identifying with the hero-savior archetype without integrating with one's shadow. I must be flawless denies an imperfect humanity. Adler, perfectionism is the compensation for a profound sense of inferiority. If I am perfect, I will finally be enough. But perfection is always unattainable, guaranteeing a perpetual feeling of inadequacy. 7. Death of the need for control. 2025 taught us, again, that you don't control everything. You have no control over the economy, politics, other people, unexpected events, or your own body. Illness, aging. Trying to control the uncontrollable will only generate perpetual anxiety. The phoenix doesn't control when it will die. 500 years is its limit. It's not a choice. But it does control where and how it will die. Consciously, intentionally, on its own terms. Exercise. List 3 things you tried to control in 2025 but couldn't. For each thought, can I let go of this? Can I accept this mystery, uncertainty, impermanence? Freud says, the need for control is a defense against castration anxiety, the fundamental fear of impotence, vulnerability, and death. Jung, it is the inflation of the ego, an illusion that a small ego should control the totality of life. But individuation requires surrender to the self, which is indeed a greater power than the ego. Adler, excessive control is a way of compensating for a perceived inferiority. If I control everything, I won't be caught unprepared, I won't be humiliated. But life is fundamentally uncontrollable. These are the 7 deaths. You don't need to burn them all on December 31st, but you need to start this to build your pyre. You need to gather the sticks. That identity will. This relationship will work. This addiction will continue. That belief will go away. That regret will pass. This perfectionism will go away. That illusion of control will pass. And then, light the fire. Not metaphorically, but I recommend that you literally use your senses in your actions. Touch, hearing, voice, smell, and sight. I'll tell you how at the end. Comment now which of the 7 deaths you need most in 2026. Obsolete identity, toxic relationship, addiction, compulsion, limiting belief, regret, resentment, perfectionism, need for control. Honesty is the first step, and share it with someone who also needs to burn something. Ashes, crossing the void. Here's the part about transformation that nobody talks about. The ashes. The phoenix doesn't die, and instantly is reborn. No, no, no. In his death, there are 3 days of ashes. 3 days of nothingness, of mourning for non-existence. It is no longer the old bird, and it has not yet become the new bird, it's just dust. It is the most difficult phase of the transformation. You decided to change. He burned his old identity, and then emptiness is coming. Who am I if I am no longer X? What do I do if I no longer do Y? How do I relate to others if I'm no longer a Gen Z? Understand there is no answer yet, and your brain hates that. Your brain wants and feeds on certainty, clear identity, predictable patterns, coherent narrative, and the ashes offer none of that. Why most people give up here. Week of January 2-3. You quit an old addiction, left a toxic relationship, and questioned your limiting beliefs, and it feels awful. It's terrible. Now it's worse than before, no crutches at all, only temporary support. Why? Anxiety that addiction used to numb is now fully felt. Loneliness that a toxic relationship used to fill is now overwhelming. The comfort that limiting beliefs offered, it's not my fault, I can't change. Now all the support and backing have disappeared. Oh, the ego screams, come back, please come back, it was better before. And what do most people do? They go back. They pick up their old identities from the ashes. They reconnect with the former toxic self that was once toxic and will now feel dominant. They reactivate an addiction that will take on even greater proportions over their lives. But all this is because they can't bear to get through this period of ashes. And how to get through the ashes? 1. Recognize that it's a phase, not a destiny. The ashes are not permanent, they are only a transition. The phoenix remains in ashes for 3 days. Not 3 years, not forever, but 3 days. You need an adaptation period to cleanse yourself and start from scratch again. The process has an end, but it needs to be gone through with patience, not avoided. Freud says this is a grieving phase. You are mourning the death of your old self. Grief has stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and cannot be skipped. Jung. It is nigredo, the alchemical phase of darkness, decomposition, death, and it is necessary before albedo, purification, and rubedo, rebirth. Attempting to skip nigredo leads to an alchemical failure. Adler. This is a period of acute inferiority, as you have abandoned old compensatory mechanisms but have not yet developed new, healthier ones. But know that discomfort is a sign of real growth. 2. Feel the pain. Don't numb it. The ashes hurt, but allow this pain. Don't go back to addiction. Don't fill the void with a new relationship identical to the old one. Don't replace an old limiting belief with a new, equally limiting one. Feel anxiety, loneliness, uncertainty, cooked fear. These feelings won't kill you, but they will transform you. Neurologically, fully experiencing emotion, without avoidance, allows the neural circuit to be reconsolidated. Avoiding emotion ends up solidifying old patterns. Psychologically, unfelt emotions remain in the unconscious and control behavior. Felt emotions, on the other hand, are processed and set us free. 3. Nourish the worm, new emerging self. From the ashes of the phoenix emerges not the adult bird, but a worm, small, vulnerable, fragile, and he needs to be nourished. And how do you nurture the new self? Small, consistent actions are essential, see? If you've killed off the lazy label, 10 minutes of daily exercise, not 2 hours but 10 minutes. If you've overcome the belief, I'm not creative, 15 minutes of creating something daily. If you've overcome your social media addiction, 20 minutes of reading instead of scrolling on your phone. Start slowly, small, but intentionally consistent and daily, and this worm grows slowly, and without realizing it, it gains a body. Adler. Small victories build encouragement, Ermutigung, and encouragement is the fuel to overcome inferiority and keep fighting. Jung. Small, ritualized actions connect the conscious ego with the unconscious self. They create a bridge. Freud. Consistent repetition rebuilds the structures of the ego. New neural connections, new character. 4. Seek witnesses, not saviors. Ashes are passed through alone, but not invisibly. You need people who witness your struggle without trying to help you fix it. Validate your process because it will be difficult, but don't offer shortcuts. Encourage them without trying to rescue them. You don't need saviors. Let me handle it for you. Minimizers. It's not that difficult. Saboteurs. I told you it wouldn't work. Jung says, witnesses act as a container, maintaining a safe space while the chaotic contents of the psyche reorganize themselves. Adler. Genuine social interest. Gemeinschaftsgefühl from others should provide support without attempting to create dependency. Freud. Witnesses function as an auxiliary ego, lending strength when their own ego is weakened. 5. Trust the process. Psychological faith. The phoenix always rises again. There is no myth that says it remains gray forever. The process is reliable. It has thousands of years of validation, but it requires faith, intentionality, and consistency. It's not necessarily a religion, but rather a psychological faith. If I go through the process honestly, the transformation will come. And how do we cultivate this faith? Remember past transformations that you survived. Read stories from others who have weathered the ashes. Document small daily changes, evidence of growth. Young, faith is connection with the archetype of the Redeemer and Savior, not as an external savior, but as an internal potential for renewal. Adler, faith is teleological guiding fiction. I am moving toward a better version of myself, even if I don't yet see it clearly. Freud, faith is healthy sublimation, libidinal energy redirected from immediate gratification to long-term goals. The Renaissance, 2026, as a new bird, and then the movement, in the ashes, small, almost imperceptible, but there he is, the worm. It grows feathers, it forms wings, and one day, it will fly again. The phoenix has been reborn. How do you know if you've been reborn? There is no exact date. It's not January 1st at 001. But there are signs. 1. The new identity feels natural. You're not pretending to be a new person. You simply are. I am a person who exercises. Not, I try to exercise. I am an artist. Not, I try to be creative. I'm a happy single man. Not, I'm trying to get over my ex. You are. The new identity was integrated. Jung. The conscious ego has integrated unconscious contents that were previously shadow or persona. You are now more complete. 2. New behaviors are automatic. In the beginning, it required enormous effort. Now they flow. You don't need Herculean willpower to. He won't relapse into addiction. Don't call your ex toxic drug user. It won't fall into a limiting pattern. Because you've changed, you're no longer the old you. It's not just behavior, it's essential being. Freud. New patterns were consolidated in the ego. They became character, not just performance. 3. Past trials. No longer seduce. A situation that used to destroy you. Now you get through it calmly. The person who used to manipulate you. Now you see clearly. A belief that once paralyzed you now seems absurd because you're different. Literally a new bird. Adler. You overcame a specific inferiority. You developed real competence, not just neurotic defense. 4. Gratitude for the fire. At the beginning. Why do I have to go through this? After the rebirth. Thank you for going through this. You see, fire was necessary. Without it, there would be no renewal. Jung. You integrated suffering as a conjunctio oppositorum, a union of opposites. Pain and growth are not enemies, but dialectical partners. Your flight plan for 2026, December 2025. Now, list the 7 necessary deaths. Choose 1 to 3 to focus on, not all at once. Start building the bonfire. Preparatory decisions. December 31st, January 1st. The sensory part. Burning ritual, literal if possible. Affirm reading, writing, and burning paper. Smell everything that will be gone forever. Smell what is gone. Declaration of new identity, written and spoken. First symbolic act, first action of new identity. January 2026. Ash. Phase. Expect discomfort. Don't run away to old vices. Small daily actions. Worm nutrition. Trusted witnesses. Tip. Choose carefully. If you don't have one, find a mentor. It could be an older mind who left their legacy, their writings, and follow them. Journaling to track the process. February-March 2026. Emergency. First signs of a new identity. Increase the complexity of actions. Celebrate small victories. Adjust course as needed. April 2026. Onwards. Flight. New identity consolidated. Automatic patterns. Expansion into other areas. Preparing for the next cycle. Phoenix knows it will live 500 years, but eventually it will build a new pyre. Now, one final question for you. What kind of bird do you want to be in 2026? Not a slightly improved version of 2025, but a new bird. If you could completely burn away who you were and emerge as who you really can be, What would this bird look like? Describe it, and then build your bonfire. The next pyre. Transformation is a cycle, not a final destination. 1. The last truth about the phoenix that most people forget is that she's going to die again, not in 2026, not in 2027, but in 500 years, metaphorically your next life cycle. And you'll have to rebuild a new pyre, to pass through new ashes, to be reborn again. A transformation is not a one-time event. It's a cycle. You are growing up in this new identity to live life to the fullest. Eventually, surpass it, and needing to die, be reborn again, and that is beautiful. Because they mean you will never be imprisoned. Your identity in 2026 is not a final prison. It's another phase, a cycle, a new chapter. In 2030, you might need to burn it and be reborn again. And in 2040, and in 2060, even to literal death. And who knows, maybe even later. So build your bonfire for 2026. But be aware, this will not be the last bonfire. That's the next one, of many. And each one will take you closer to who you truly are. Because the phoenix is not reborn to be immortal. Be reborn to live life to the fullest, and to die consciously, and to be reborn radiant, forever. Happy death, happy ashes, happy rebirth. Welcome to 2026, Phoenix. May your feathers shine golden under a new sun. See you on the next flight.